Good morning, and welcome back to the ServSafe Food Protection Manager Certification Training course. My name is Mr. Dan Delcher, and I am a certified ServSafe Instructor with the Essex County Schools of Technology. This is Chapter 9, The Flow of Food Service. During Chapter 9, we're going to have the following objectives: time and temperature requirements for holding hot and cold TCS food, ways of preventing time-temperature abuse and cross-contamination when displaying and serving food, the requirements for using time rather than temperature as the only method of control when holding TCS food, ways of minimizing bare hand contact with ready-to-eat food, how to prevent staff from contaminating food during service, how to prevent guests from contaminating self-service areas, the possible hazards of transporting food and ways of preventing them, the possible hazards of serving food off-site and ways of preventing them, and the possible hazards of vending food and ways of preventing them. The general rule for holding hot TCS food is going to be, or holding food, is to hold TCS food at the correct temperature. Using a thermometer, hot food should be at 135 degrees Fahrenheit, 57 degrees Celsius, or higher, and cold food should be 41 degrees Fahrenheit, 5 degrees Celsius, or lower. Use a thermometer to check a food's internal temperature. Never use the temperature gauge on a holding unit to check the food's temperature. The temperature gauge on the hot holding unit only tells you what exactly the temperature of the heating coils is, and not what the food is. In terms of time for holding food, make sure staff are monitoring holding temperatures regularly. Check temperatures at least every 4 hours. Throw out food not at 41 degrees Fahrenheit, 5 degrees Celsius or lower, or 135 degrees Fahrenheit, 57 degrees Celsius or higher. Optional, you could check temperatures every 2 hours to leave time for corrective action. Meaning that if you check the food in a hot holding area, such as a buffet, and it is not at the correct temperature, within 2 hours, you can still go and reheat that food item and then put it back on the service line. Rules for holding food, reheating food. Never use hot holding equipment to reheat food unless it's built to do so. Reheat food correctly and then move it into a holding unit. So you should never reheat food in a hot holding device or even a buffet line. You should always use an oven or a stovetop to reheat food, or microwave to reheat food. Holding areas, they must include food covers and sneeze guards. Cover food and install sneeze guards to protect food from contaminants. Covers protect food from contamination and help maintain food temperature. Create policies about how long the operation will hold food and when it will be thrown out. Remember that a sneeze guard is meant to cover and prevent both you and customers from getting their face too close to the food. Cold food can be held without temperature control for up to 6 hours if it has been held at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or lower before removing it from refrigeration. It has a label specifying time it was removed from refrigeration and time it must be thrown out. It does not exceed 70 degrees Fahrenheit during service. Throw out food that exceeds this temperature. It is sold, served, or thrown out within 6 hours. Hot food can be held without temperature control for up to 4 hours if it was held at 135 degrees Fahrenheit, 57 degrees Celsius, or higher before removing it from temperature control. It has a label specifying when the item must be thrown out, and it is sold, served, or thrown out within 4 hours. Again, examples of this might be a cookout or barbecue or some other type of catering event where you heated this up or had it on refrigeration, and then you're removing it to serve it, but you don't have heating devices or ways to keep it cold. You must get regulatory approval to prepare written procedures, get written approval in advance, maintain procedures, and make procedures available when it comes to holding food without temperature control. Again, holding food without temperature control can be very dangerous. So, when we look at service staff, front of the house staff, what are some guidelines for serving food? We need to first look at how should we handle dishes and glassware. Many of you might think that the incorrect method, you might be able to hold the side of the plate. But the real correct method for carrying a plate or serving a plate is to put your hand underneath the plate. This reduces your chance of getting your hands on the food contact surfaces. Transporting cups, as another example, you should always transport cups and leave them in some sort of tray, rather than stacking them and trying to carry them like this. Silverware should always be held by the handle and never by the food contact surface. You should never hold ready to eat foods with your bare hand. Use a pair of tongs or other device to transport ready to eat food onto a plate. And ice. Always use a prescribed ice scoop. Never use a glass or never use your hands. Again, your hands allows you to transport biological contaminants into the ice, and using the actual glass to scoop ice could cause it to break and cause a physical contaminant in the ice. If you preset tableware, wrap and cover the items to prevent contamination. Table settings do not need to be wrapped or covered if extra settings are removed when guests are seated, if left on the table, cleaned and sanitized after guests have left. Again, this idea of having it preset on the table is usually a common occurrence in more fancier restaurants. A lot of times, the restaurants that many of us go to, you'll find that your silverware is wrapped up in some sort of napkin or in whether it's a cloth napkin or a paper napkin. A server should never reserve food. This includes food returned by a guest, uncovered condiments such as salsa, uneaten bread, and plate garnishes. Generally, Only unopened, prepackaged food in good condition can be reserved, such as condiment packets, wrapped crackers, or breadsticks. Anything that's wrapped and sealed could be reserved. So, how do we prevent contamination when serving food? Again, we want to avoid bare hand contact with ready-to-eat food. Wear single-use gloves. Use spatulas, tongs, deli sheets, or other utensils. Use clean and sanitized utensils for serving. Use separate utensils for each food. Clean and sanitize utensils after each task. If using them, continuously clean and sanitize them at least every 4 hours. Prevent contamination when serving food. Store serving utensils correctly between uses. Leave them in the food with the handle extended above the container rim. Place them on a clean and sanitized food contact surface. You may also store spoons or scoops under running water or in a container of water at least 135 degrees Fahrenheit, 57 degrees Celsius. When it comes to take-home containers, can be refilled only when the containers are designed for reuse, provided to guests by the operation, and cleaned and sanitized correctly. Take-home beverage containers can be refilled if the beverage is not a TCS food, container is refilled for the same guest, container can be effectively cleaned, containers rinsed with fresh, hot water under pressure before refilling, and the container is refilled by staff in the operation or by the guest using a process that prevents contamination. When it comes to self-service areas, you must use sneeze guards, display cases, or packaging. Use labels to identify all food items. Keep raw meat, fresh fish, and poultry separate from ready-to-eat food. These, uh, because of recent food laws, not only do you need to identify the food item, but you must also indicate what calorie count the food item is in self-service areas. Do not let customers refill dirty plates or use dirty utensils at self-service areas. Stock displays with the correct utensils. Never use ice as an ingredient if it was used to keep food or beverages cold. When it comes to labeling bulk food in self-service areas, make sure the label is in plain view of the guest. Use the manufacturer or processor label provided with the food. As an alternative, provide the information using a card, sign, or other labeling method. A label is not needed for bulk unpackaged food such as bakery products if the product makes no claim regarding health or nutrient content. No laws require the item to be labeled. The food is manufactured or prepared on the premises. The food is manufactured or prepared at another operation or processing plant owned by the same person. The operation must also be regulated. When you're transporting food off-site for a catering event or other type of activity, use insulated food-grade containers designed to keep food from mixing, leaking, and spilling. Label food with a use-by date and time, and reheat and service instructions. Clean the inside of delivery vehicles regularly, and check internal food temperatures. When transporting food off-site, practice good personal hygiene. Check internal food temperatures. If they are not being held correctly, reevaluate the length of the delivery route or the equipment. Store raw meat, poultry, and seafood separate from ready-to-eat items. When catering, make sure the service site has the correct utilities. Safe water for cooking, dishwashing, and hand washing. Garbage containers stored away from food prep storage and serving areas. Use insulated containers to help TCS food. Wrap raw meat and store it on ice. Deliver dairy products in a refrigerated vehicle or on ice. Serve cold food in containers on ice or in chilled containers. Hold food without temperature control, or you can hold food without temperature control according to guidelines. Store ready-to-eat food separately from raw food and provide customers with directions for handling leftovers. Guidelines for temporary units. Construct temporary units to keep out dirt and pests. Apply food safety rules to food prep. Make sure safe drinking water is available for cleaning, sanitizing, and hand washing. And use disposable, single-use items. Temporary units are usually common at fairs or other outdoor events. Guidelines for mobile units or food trucks. Sanitation requirements may vary based on the products. The same food safety rules apply to permanent and mobile kitchens. Special permit and license may be needed. And finally, in terms of vending machines, which these types of vending machines that hold TCS food are becoming very uncommon. But if you do encounter this, check product shelf life daily. Throw away food past its expiration or use by date. Throw away refrigerated food prepped on site and not sold in 7 days. Keep TCS food at the correct temperature. Dispense TCS food in its original container. And wash and wrap fresh fruit with edible peels before putting it in the machine. Although vending machines are very uncommon, some of these packaged sandwiches and other TCS food items are common in um, small convenience stores. The same concepts apply to food served in the deli area of convenience stores. This ends Chapter 9. Please now go to Google Classroom and complete the Google Form questions on Chapter 9. Thank you.